So in the last video, we have seen the application of abstract class. But the problem is when you have two abstract class, I need to extend to abstract class. It's not possible, right? It's because in Java, multiple inheritance is not possible since the abstract class is a class. Now to replace this concept or to replace abstract class, not exactly replacement, but to achieve this feature of multiple inheritance, we have something called as interface. So first we'll learn what exactly interface is, and then we'll implement that concept here. To learn that concept, what we'll do is we'll go to this, we'll say new file, let's say new Java class, to say others class, next, and we'll name this class as, okay, we'll say int demo, and we'll say finish. Okay, so we have this new class called as int demo. Now to demonstrate how exactly your interface works is, so let's say before this class, in this class we'll be having a main function, obviously because it is public class. So in this public class we'll have a main function, we'll say public static void main, which will accept a string arguments or string array. Okay, so I made a mistake, it should be string. Now, so how to define interface? Now, the way we should define interface is almost same like defining a class. So we have to first use a keyword called as interface. And normally we use class keyword, but now we have to use interface class, and then you need to provide the name for the interface. And we'll say this name here is, let's say ATM. Okay. Now by default, all the methods in interface are public abstract. Which means in an abstract class, like example in this abstract class, we can define and we can declare both. So we can declare a method and we can even define the methods. But in case of interface, by default, all the methods are public abstract. Which means if you want to define a method called as ATM, so we'll say public abstract void ATM. So we have to declare this, right? But since it is by default public abstract, so we don't have to rewrite this. So we can simply write public ATM. Simple. And now when I say we have a class, so we'll say we have a class called as card. Now, in case of class to class, when you say you are extending a class, so we have to write a keyword called as extends. But in case of interface, instead of using a keyword called as extends, we have to use something called as implements. This implements ATM. So when you say you are going from class to class, it is extends. When you say your class is using an interface, it is implements. Since we need to implement a method called as ATM. What if you fail to define a method? If you fail to define a method, this class will become abstract. So you can see we have an error here. How to solve this error? Since we are not implementing any method, this class becomes abstract. So you can see there is no error now. But I don't want to make this class as abstract, so we have to define that. Now what to define? We need to define this method called as ATM. So I have to say the access specifier, which is public, and void ATM, and in this will print, it will say system.out.println, and here will print ATM. Simple. So this is how you have to define interface. So by default, all the methods in interface becomes abstract, public abstract. And then we have to implement. This is very important. We have to implement our interface, and then we can just just define the method, and now we can call it. Now, can I create object of interface? It's same like abstract class. You cannot create object of abstract class, so you cannot create object of interface. So for sure, you cannot instantiate the object of interface, but we can create reference. So we'll say ATM obj. So we can create the reference, but we cannot create the object. So we'll say ATM obj equal to new, and the class which implements the ATM interface can create the object. So we can say ATM obj equal to new card, almost same like your abstract class. And then we can say obj dot ATM. Simple. So this is how you have to implement the interface. You need to you have to implement ATM, and then we need to create reference of ATM and object of the class, or instantiate the class which has implemented that interface. If I run this, if I say run as Java application, public static void main. Am I missing something here? In the same, we have the same package, right? So we'll say card one. The problem is we are going with the same name. We have already defined a class called as card in the package Navin. So we cannot have the same class name in two packages, or we cannot have two classes in the same package. So I just have renamed it to card one. So we'll say run Java application. Editor does not contain a main. Is it any spelling mistake here? Public static void main. String args. What's the issue? I guess there is some bugs here. I've done everything. And as okay, let me solve this problem and we'll run in the next part.